Hello, my name is Chris Copland, and with my colleague, Dr. Nathalie Gaspar, I'm going to talk to you about why there should be more opportunities for adolescents to take part in clinical trials and what our community can do to bring this about. Nathalie and I represent the Accelerate Forum and are very pleased to have the opportunity to speak to you today about the Fair Trials Initiative. Nathalie, as many of you will be aware, is an eminent pediatric oncologist. I, however, am not a professional. I'm here as a patient advocate and parent in memory of my daughter Bethan, who was diagnosed with a rare form of sarcoma just before her 13th birthday. So I, as a layperson, will explain in straightforward, simple terms why age-inclusive research is important for young people and for the research community in general, before Nathalie explores those issues in more depth. And to begin with, I want to talk about Chloe, who is the daughter of a fellow patient advocate and parent, Debbie Binner. You can see Chloe in the photograph taken from a local newspaper story, and you can see the headline: Mother of 18-year-old cancer victim says drug trials must admit more teenagers. And I'm going to take up a little bit of your time reading a few lines from the local newspaper story that accompanied that headline to give you the context. The family of a teenage girl who died from a rare form of bone cancer is calling for the relaxation of rules governing who is eligible to take part in potentially life-saving drugs trials. Despite the pleas of her parents, doctors, and politicians, Chloe Drury was refused access to treatment being trialed by American pharmaceutical company BioMarin. Her family says she was told last September, when she was 17, that she was too young to take part and that her participation could jeopardize her safety and the integrity of the trial data. Chloe died in February, a month after her 18th birthday. She had finally been allowed on the course to treat her Ewing sarcoma, but the cancer had progressed aggressively and it was too late. Those few months that Chloe was shy of her 18th birthday did not, in scientific terms, affect her biological readiness for the treatment on offer in the clinical trial. But they did prevent her taking part in the study, and the potential benefit this might have brought to her and to the study itself in terms of additional data. Chloe Drury is one individual, and this is a particular incident, but it is part of a bigger picture and a wider pattern. Many more young people are excluded from clinical trials without medical justification, but on the basis of the convention that many trials for adults have an age eligibility criteria of 18 years. A study by Lorna Fern and Jeremy Whelan not long ago in 2014 revealed that only 6 of 49 studies of cancers common in teenagers and young adults had age eligibility criteria appropriate for the biological age range of the diseases. So we are talking about a general issue here within the research community. And this has consequences, both for the patients who might participate in those trials, but also for research and it's the capability of research to bring treatments promptly to the hospital ward. I'll give you an example relating to Hodgkin's lymphoma, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, occurs in children, teenagers, and young adults. A new drug, brentuximab vedotin, was approved in Europe for adults in 2012. The pediatric trial, which was for those under 18 years, was still ongoing in 2016. So that is 4 years later that treatment was not available to those under the age of 18. It eventually did become available to those, but with a delay. So delays are one phenomenon. The other one is ghost trials. I'm sure some of you are aware of this description of trials that are unable to attract sufficient participants to be viable. And if I take an example from the melanoma community, melanoma, as I'm sure many of you are aware, does occur in adolescence, but is very rare. A new drug was approved for adults, vemurafenib, in 2012. A trial for patients aged 12 to 18 opened in 2011 in 10 countries and 4 continents. As of December 2015, only 6 patients have been recruited, so it was therefore not viable. The consequences of this are that drugs approved for adults often are used with adolescents, but they're used off-label without the relevant safety information or the evidence base to support their appropriateness for those particular patients. But more generally, for the research community, there is a loss of vital information that might be drawn from those patients on tumor biology, drug efficacy, drug action and resistance, and safety. The FAIR Trials Initiative and Accelerate has made a number of proposals in response to this situation. And I've got a couple up on the screen here to put before you. The age of trial entry should be reduced to 12 years in adult early phase studies where medically justified. Adolescents should be treated, though, in an age-appropriate setting. The small visual here, I think, is of the Teenage Cancer Trust ward in Birmingham, so a ward for that age group. And of course, adolescents should still be included in pediatric or TYA trials where relevant. My colleague Nathalie has demonstrated that these proposals are safe, that toxicity and dosing is manageable, that by and large they're compatible with law and regulation across developed countries, and that they do not delay or jeopardize adult trials. The challenge we contend with is one of dogma, a widespread belief within the profession that lowering the age of entry risks all of the above. We contend that the problem is not one of regulation, but of culture. Professionals behaving in a particular way because that is how things have always been done. And we're pleased and grateful to have had this opportunity to speak to this forum about our goals to raise awareness, to challenge dogma, and to call for changes to standard procedures. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Nathalie, who's going to look at this in more depth and look at some of the responses that the FAIR Trials Initiative has made to push the initiative forward. Thank you.
As said by Chris, rational, rapid, and safe solution to accelerate pediatric access to innovative therapeutics is to include adolescents in adult trials from early phase when it's medically justified. There is no increased risk for the adolescents, no legal issue, no opposition from the industry, and a clear patient and parent support. But we need to change minds and to gain in awareness. And for that, we have set up a working group within the frame of Accelerate. Accelerate is a European platform with multi-stakeholder actors involved in the development of new drugs in pediatrics. And the working group, which is called the FAIR Trial Working Group for Fostering Age-Inclusive Research, has been created in 2017 with academic from both pediatric and medical oncology world, from pharma industry, patient and parents representative, and associated members that can join the group depending on the matter that we are discussing. The objective of the group is to raise awareness, but also to give tools to the investigators and all the actors of the drug development to be able to include these adolescents in early adult trial. Among these tools, you have all the stakeholders support that is present on the website, and all the documents on this website are freely accessible and can be downloaded. You can find support from patients with adolescent testimony on videos about participating on trials. You have a parent support with different texts that have been posted in the website from different parent associations. You can also find the support of the industry with a formal letter of different industry organizations supporting the inclusion of adolescents in adult trial, which is a very important achievement of 2020. You can also find all the regulatory support of this initiative with the FDA guidance, which is a text where you can find consideration for inclusion of adolescent patients in adult oncology clinical trial, and that's a guidance for industry, very useful. You also have a letter of support of the EMA, which is the European Medical Agency, supporting also this initiative, but it will be interesting to have from them a sort of guidance as the FDA has done. And you also have a letter of the EFGCP, which is the European Organization for the Good Clinical Practice. This letter of support will be complemented this year, probably, with a paper and with very practical issue and directed for all the guidance about GCP for including adolescents in adult trial. You also have academic support with an European interactive map. You can click on the country and you can find for each country the representative of the FAIR group, either a pediatric oncologist or a medical oncologist, and the structuration of the care for these adolescents in the country. We also developed different tools, an investigator-sponsored tool, which was made by industry in collaboration with ITCC. In that document, you can find all the section of a protocol that should be included in the protocol when you want to accrue adolescents in adult trial. We are also at the moment working on a parent and patient toolkit, which can help patients and parents that are acting in different working groups to understand the issue and to help implement adolescents in adult trial. We also develop a survey, which the main goal is to try to find the hurdles, because it's not just saying you have to include adolescents in an adult trial, it's also including them for real. And what we have seen in the last year is even when some protocol have an age decrease to 12 years old, sometimes adolescents are not accrued in the protocol. Then we are trying with that survey to understand what are the hurdles, the ones that have really been faced by the investigator and sponsor of such studies, but also the ones that are sought to be hurdles and that might not be. The idea is to understand what are the problems and what are the problems perceived by people, to try to tackle this problem and find solutions. We also developed a FAIR for IA stamp, which is offered for trial which actively avoid unnecessary barrier based on age. Then there is a committee with a confidential structure that review the protocol, not the scientific background, but just the section that allowed adolescents to be included in an adult trial. And if the trial complies to all this, the obligation, then you can have a stamp, which is also important for the awareness of this issue. But there are some challenge that remains, and among this challenge is to gain more active support from all the case stakeholders. We already talked about the regulators with more support from the EMA, even if in the everyday life they are already supporting this. It will be important for them to show it more officially with a document more official than just a letter of support. Also more implication in real for the commercial developers and real implication of medical oncologists, which sometimes still reluctant to such a trial. And involving pediatric oncologists from the very first discussion between medical oncologists and industry is also very important to be sure that the trials are in agreement with what are needed for the adolescents. Then that's a huge work already done by all the actors, but there is also some challenges remaining that needs to be tackled in the next years. Then we hope that meetings like today will help to tackle this problem. Thank you very much for your attention.